You think people respect you because you're nice, because you answer every message, because you show up to every crisis, every call, every fake emergency they throw at you. They don't. And I'll prove it to you right now. When you stop being available, everything changes. The energy shifts, the masks fall off, and the people you thought cared about you, they panic. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your availability is destroying your peace and how disappearing makes you untouchable. It's late. Your eyes burn from the screen. Your body's exhausted, but your mind won't. Stop, then your phone lights up, a message, you check it. Of course you do, because you always do. And right there, you make a trade. You trade your peace for a hit of approval. You tell yourself it's just a message. It's no big deal. But it's a pattern, a habit, a way of life you didn't even realize you created. And every time you respond, every time you jump to fix someone else's chaos, you hand over a little more of yourself. And the people around you? They learned. They know you'll always answer, always be there, always break your own peace for theirs. But here's what they don't expect. They don't expect you to disappear. You probably think it's harmless, being available, replying, showing up, fixing problems that aren't yours. You tell yourself it's what a good person does, what a decent man does. But it isn't kindness, it's control. See, every time you respond immediately like you train them, you show them exactly how to use you, and over time, they don't even think about it. They know where to go when they need validation, comfort, attention, and you've built a reputation. You never meant to, not as a leader, not as a mystery, but as an emotional vending machine. Carl Jung, one of the most dangerous minds in psychology, warned us about this. He said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." But here's what most people miss. What irritates you isn't just them. It's what you let them do to you. Those people aren't disrespecting you because they're evil. They do it because you trained them to. You built a role for yourself and handed them the script, and now you're trapped in a character you never wanted to play. But what happens when you stop playing? When you stop answering? When you disappear? They panic because now they've lost control of you. And worse, you force them to look at themselves. And most people aren't ready for that. Here's the part nobody wants to admit. People use you, not in the cartoon villain sense, in the quiet, constant, everyday way. They use your reactions. Every time you answer immediately, every time you say yes when you wanted to, say no, every time you explain yourself when no explanation was needed. You hand them a string. They tug, you jump, they poke, you defend, and the pattern locks in. You become predictable, and anything predictable can be controlled. You don't realize it, but you've become an emotional vending machine. Press a button, get a reaction, need distraction, text him, need a fix of approval, call him, need someone to clean up your emotional mess. He's always there. And here's the brutal truth. It's not their fault, it's yours. You taught them this, trained them to believe your time, your peace, your energy was up for grabs, that you'd sacrifice your own stillness for their comfort. And the longer you let it happen, the worse it gets. But you know what happens the moment you stop, the moment you withdraw, the moment you fall silent. And give them nothing, the whole game breaks, because when you stop reacting, they lose control. And now they have to sit with the one thing they've spent their lives avoiding, themselves. There's a power most men never learn, not because it's weak, but because it's dangerous, and dangerous things aren't taught, they're discovered. The most dangerous man in any room is the one you can't read, the one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't explain, who doesn't rush to fill the silence. Because silence makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to hear their own thoughts, to confront the noise they've been avoiding. See, most people, they thrive on reaction. They provoke, they test, they bait you into explaining yourself, into defending your peace, into giving them one more string to pull. And every time you bite, you reinforce their illusion of control. But when you stop responding, when you offer them nothing, when you disappear into silence, the rules of the game collapse. Now, they can't use you, they can't predict you, and for the first time, They're left alone with the one thing they fear most, themselves. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the part of the human psyche we avoid, the repressed thoughts, the hidden fears, the insecurities. Most people drown it out with noise, with drama, with control. But when you fall silent, you become a mirror, and suddenly they see their own reflection. And here's where your power is born, not in screaming louder, not in arguing better, but in refusing to play their game. The man who can walk away without explanation, without reaction, is a man who cannot be controlled. And in a world obsessed with validation, attention, and constant noise, that man is a threat. Most men are slaves to their impulses. They trade their peace for approval, but the rare few, the ones who master the art of silence, become untouchable. Now, if you're still here, you're not like them. Most already clicked away. Most ran back to their distractions, back to their phones, their empty conversations, their meaningless scrolling, because this isn't easy to hear. It's uncomfortable. It stings. It forces you to look at yourself. But you stayed. And that tells me something. You're different. You're the kind of man who isn't afraid of his own silence, who isn't scared to cut loose the people feeding on his peace. You're built for something bigger than constant reaction. So here's your first test, your first act of defiance against the world's noise. I want you to type it right now. I choose my peace. Drop it in the comments. Not for me, for you. Because every time you speak those words, you break another string. You remind yourself that you don't owe your time, your energy, or your sanity to anyone. If you've made it this far, you're one of us. One of the rare few men who see the game for what it is. And now it's time to finish it. Let's get back to it. Most people don't realize this, but when you're constantly available, constantly replying, constantly rescuing, you're not connecting. You're becoming a psychic crutch. And the truth is brutal. They're not relating to you. They're relating to the emotional fix you've agreed to be. And every time you answer that pointless text, pick up that guilt-tripping call, stay in that dead-end conversation, you become their personal hit of validation, comfort, or control, and it feeds on you. Carl Jung once wrote, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This right here is the darkness. It's subtle. It wears a familiar face. It sounds like obligation, like guilt, like duty, but it's psychic energy theft, and it leaves you empty. See, most people aren't malicious, they're just unconscious. They're driven by their wounds, their loneliness, their insecurity. And when they sense your energy is available, they'll latch on. Not because they're evil, but because you've let yourself become accessible. The strong man makes the darkness conscious. He sees the pattern. He recognizes how his constant availability makes him a battery for weak people, emotional manipulators, and professional victims, and he cuts it off. This isn't about cruelty. It's about clarity, because once you see the game, you don't play it. You protect your peace, your energy, your mind. And anyone who guilt-trips you for it is part of the very sickness you're escaping. You owe no one your constant availability. Not today, not ever. Now that you see it, here's what you do. No theory, no lectures, moves right now. Don't respond immediately. The moment you feel that itch, the notification, the "can you talk?" text, pause. Let them sit in the unknown. Because every time you rush to reply, you reinforce their control. Don't explain yourself. When you finally respond, if you choose to, you owe them nothing. No long paragraphs, no justifications, no "sorry, I was busy." The weak explain. The strong act. Walk away from pointless conversations. You know the ones. The emotional venting sessions, the empty gossip, the circular debates. You stay polite, you nod, you endure, and it drains you. Stop. Stand up. Say, "I've got things to handle," and leave. Turn your phone off without guilt. You do not exist to be on call for the world's anxieties. Power off. Silence everything. Feel that discomfort? That's detox. It means it's working. Say, "Not today." When someone tries to pull you into drama, crisis, or their emotional dependence, look them in the eye or type it out and say, "Not today." Watch how quickly their world crumbles without your validation. Final line. You owe no one an explanation for protecting your peace. Tattoo it on your mind, because every time you stand firm, you train the world how to treat you. Weak men get drained. Strong men stay dangerous by guarding their energy like a weapon, and that's exactly what you're becoming. Let's be honest, this isn't easy, and it's not supposed to be. When you start pulling back, when you stop replying, stop explaining, stop being everyone's emotional safety net, you're going to lose people. They'll call you cold, arrogant, distant. Some will lash out, some will disappear, and in those first quiet nights you'll feel it, the sting of solitude. Good, because what most men never understand is this: greatness is born in silence. Not in crowds, not in group chats, not in mindless social validation. When you cut the noise, you hear yourself. When you walk away, you face the truth. And in those empty, uncomfortable spaces, a new kind of power takes root. This isn't loneliness. This is the solitude of the strong, the few, the dangerous, the men who build unshakable lives because they don't need the constant approval of the world around them. Most people will trade their soul for a scrap of attention. You trade their attention for your peace, your clarity, your discipline, and every time you say no, every time you ghost the nonsense, every time you protect your energy, you're forging something rare. A kind of internal armor no one can touch, and yes, it costs you, but what you gain in return is priceless. Freedom, focus, power. The world belongs to the men who can stand alone. Be one of them. Now, here's the truth you have to face. If you choose this path, you will be misunderstood. You'll be called selfish, cold, ruthless. And you know what? Good, because it means you're no longer playing by the rules of weak men. Most will fold the second they feel rejected. The second someone labels them heartless for protecting their time, their peace, their mind, but not you. If you're ready to be that man, the one who can stand alone, cut ties, and stay unshakable while the world flinches, drop it in the comments right now. Type, "I choose my peace," not for validation, not for likes, for you, as a line in the sand, a personal contract, because the world isn't built by men desperate to be liked. It's built by the few willing to be hated for their strength. And if you're one of them, subscribe, join this brotherhood, because this is just the beginning. Next video, I'm going to show you how to weaponize your absence, how to make your silence louder than 1,000 words, how to turn walking away into the deadliest move in your arsenal. You're either watching it or you're becoming it. Choose.